Howdy folks, and welcome back to Dungeon Mastering Videos. I'm your host and resident nerd watcher, Nicholas DiPetrillo. Today's topic comes to you from one of my Twitter followers. Trungo Fever asks for some tips on how to manage a group of 8 PCs in combat. Now, I've played 4E with as few as 3 players and as many as 9, and I can tell you that large groups get pretty unwieldy. The most important way to handle this is actually outside the game. You need to enforce some tight table policies. Keep good track of initiative and make sure everybody knows when their turn is coming up. Your players should know what they're doing on their turn. You can't have someone spend 5 minutes going through their power cards trying to figure out the best course of action, because then they're holding up the game for everyone. People get bored, they start to talk, and then your whole game is derailed. You may feel like a bit of a jerk enforcing strict rules at the table, but it makes your game run smoother and more fun, and your players will be glad for that. Now, big groups present some interesting opportunities that you can take advantage of in combat. Take solo monsters, for example. Normally, if you drop in a solo monster, that's all your party is fighting, because they're equivalent to 5 PCs. But if you have a group of 8, you can put in the solo monster, some standard monsters, and some minions. And now you've turned that fight into a battle of the big boss and all his lackeys. And it's a lot more complex and satisfying than when all 5 players rush in, surround the solo monster, and just beat him until he stops moving. Leader type monsters are also very fun in big group games. That way they have plenty of standard monsters that they can boss around. Normally, you only get like 4 standard monsters that your leader can take advantage of to move around tactically. In a group of 8, you can have 7, 8, and your leader just directs them from the back and makes for a lot more strategically satisfying combat instead of just beatdowns. Traps are also good for big groups because they stand a chance of hitting everyone, no one is safe, and your players, if they use their skills correctly, can actually use traps in their favor to push enemies into them. Moving traps are especially fun because people need to get out of the way, and that can be a problem in a crowded battlefield, so it makes for some interesting tactical difficulties. You can use terrain like elevation or other things that separate the group to make 2 more manageable sized combat groups. For instance, if half your party is up on a cliffside fighting archers who would be firing down, and then the other half is on the ground fighting warriors, then everybody's got an important role to play in combat and no one feels redundant. Another tip that I picked up at Gen Con is to put your players into 2 separate but simultaneous combats that can affect each other. For instance, let's say your group splits off into 2 rooms, and each room has some monsters in it, but also has, let's say, a magic crystal. And when the group interacts with the magic crystal, they can use it to alter the terrain of the other room, and vice versa. So now the 2 groups are in 2 separate combats, but they both interrelate and help each other. So they're working as one unit, but they're in smaller functions, and they don't feel redundant and they can help each other. Also, they have more impact on what's going on in their room. So I hope that helps you, Trungo Fever, and hopefully it helps some other folks out there. Until next time, good luck and good rolling.